Welcome to SpeedyPodz episode 41. Imagine a factory that just suddenly learns to build itself, churning out like 8 times as much product.
Right. It sounds amazing on paper.
Yeah, but what if half of that product is just unusable junk? Because that's actually the exact paradox happening in corporate AI right now. Our goal for you today is exploring this massive gap between what AI can theoretically do in a lab and the incredibly messy, honestly shockingly expensive reality of actually deploying it for a business.
It really is like the defining tension in tech right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the capabilities are skyrocketing, sure, but translating those capabilities into a company's bottom line is proving way more complicated than, anyone predicted.
Let's start with the lab side first because, well, the numbers coming out of Anthropic are just wild. They recently reported that their AI, Claude, now authors something like 80% of their merged code.
Which is a huge jump.
Right. Just a year ago, that number was in the single digits, so it is practically writing itself at this point. But I do have to push back a little here on the actual quality. I mean, if an AI is churning out 8 times more lines of code, is it actually good code, or are we just looking at, massive amounts of digital bloat?
Well, that is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you look at the internal data from Anthropic employees, it's actually very telling. They report a 4 times productivity boost, which is great.
Yeah, 4 times is huge.
But, like you noted, they're also seeing an 8 times increase in code volume.
Okay, wait, let's look at the math here. You're getting half the value per line of code, basically. So it's incredibly fast, but just incredibly verbose.
Exactly. It strongly implies that the AI's code is just less efficient than human-written code. It takes way more lines to accomplish the exact same task. And what's really fascinating here is how this completely shifts the bottleneck of software development. Well, the hardest part is no longer writing the code itself. The real bottleneck is now the human who actually has to sit there and review, verify, and just understand that massive mountain of AI-generated output.
Which, brings us to why you should care about this, especially if you've been worrying about your own white-collar job. If humans are the bottleneck, well, you aren't obsolete. We heard so many predictions about this massive AI job apocalypse.
Oh yeah, constantly.
Right, but now tech leaders, like Sam Altman and Dario Amodei, they are actively walking those predictions back.
Because execution at scale is proving to be painfully expensive. Just look at Uber, for example. They burned through their entire 2026 budget for AI coding tools in just 4 months.
Wait, 4 months? That is insane.
It is, and now their leadership is openly questioning if that massive spend even resulted in better consumer-facing features.
So that 8 times bloat we just talked about comes with a massive receipt attached. Like, Uber burned its budget because every time the AI generated that bloated code, it cost them compute money to process it and then human money to fix it. Are companies just blindly burning tokens without a real business plan?
In a lot of cases, yeah, they are. They're sort of throwing expensive AI at the wall to see what sticks. But there's actually a deeper economic principle at play here called Jevons paradox.
Oh, I think I know this one.
Yeah, it states that when a technology makes a resource cheaper and more efficient, it actually creates more demand for that resource. So because AI lowers the cost of executing a task, executives are just dreaming up vastly more tasks.
Okay, wait. So this is like when a city expands a highway to reduce traffic, but the wider road just makes more people want to drive, so the traffic actually gets worse. Like the AI makes work cheaper, so we just demand way more work.
Precisely. That is a great analogy. Look at the cloud software company Box. They aren't firing people to save money. They're actually adding new jobs.
Really? What kind of jobs?
They're hiring AI architects and evaluators. AI is fantastic at handling that, middle execution layer. But humans are desperately needed on both ends to set the strategic direction and then verify the results.
So if Jevons paradox means humans are demanding millions of new AI tasks and autonomous bots are now officially generating more internet traffic than human beings, where does all that processing physically happen? I mean, it feels like we're pushing the actual physical internet to its breaking point.
We absolutely are, and that triggers this massive infrastructure arms race. The ultimate limit to the AI revolution isn't software intelligence anymore. It is hardware, energy, and just sheer capital.
Yeah, the scramble for compute is very real. I mean, SoftBank just announced an eye-watering 75 billion euro investment to build data centers in France alone.
That is a staggering amount of money.
Right. And at the same time, we're seeing a market shift toward these open-weight models like Minimax. These are models where the core neural network is essentially given away for free, and they claim to challenge the expensive proprietary models at a fraction of the software cost.
But see, whether the software itself is open weight or heavily guarded, it still requires massive physical infrastructure to actually run.
Yeah, the hardware doesn't change.
Exactly. And this raises a really critical question about the future business landscape. The barrier to entry is shifting away from who has the smartest software engineers to who can actually secure the power grid and the silicon to run these models.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought for you to ponder this week. If AI eventually automates the execution of every single task, does having a unique, original idea become the only valuable human currency left? Or will the future simply belong to whoever can afford the electricity to run the models? Something for you to chew on. Thanks for watching SpeedyPodz. We'll catch you in the next one.